working on a 2005 Acura MDX. Now the complaint is that the air conditioning was working fine and then all of a sudden it just quit. Now we need to find out why.
Of course there are variables between the different systems, but here is a basic automotive AC system. It has refrigerant gas under pressure, and that pressure has to be circulating through various parts, and they are all controlled by electrical components. Now, understanding the complaint, it was working just fine, but all of a sudden it just quit. Well, the problem has got to be something right here. But what? What could cause a sudden problem? Well, it's time for our critical thinking. What does it make you ask? Well, it makes me ask, is there gas? And is the pressure correct? Well, why is that? Well, because the loss of gas or the wrong pressure can cause it to suddenly stop working. So let's check those things first.
Now when we're trying to find the problem, obviously the smart thing to do is go with the easiest or the most common problem first and rule that out. Now in air conditioning, when they suddenly stop, the most common cause is it's lost its freon charge. So that's the first thing we did. We took our gauges, hooked them up, and we hooked to the high and the low side of the air conditioning, and we had 100 pounds static pressure.
100 pounds of static pressure. Well, what is static pressure? Well, static pressure is the pressure that a fluid exerts when it is not moving. And we know that this pressure has to be moving to be able to give us the variable pressure that we need to make the system work properly. We need both high and low pressure to get a heat exchange. What does 100 pounds of static pressure tell us? Here's a typical temperature pressure chart for an R134 system. Now let's say it's 80 degrees ambient temperature outside. Moving pressure would have a low and a high pressure as it moves through the system. But because ours is not moving or not working, it is static. So the not moving pressure would have to be somewhere in between the two. Or as you can see, somewhere between 45 to 50 on the low side and 175 to 210 on the high side. Now that is a reasonable static, not moving pressure. And since the static pressure of 100 is averaged between the low and the high, that tells us that the system is not low on gas.
100 pounds of static pressure means the system is charged sufficiently so that I don't have to worry about that being my issue.
So it is not low on gas. In order for the pressure to be variable, it has to move. The compressor creates the pressure, so the compressor needs to run. That means we need to check the electrical components because those are what are controlling the running of the compressor. Let's review the electrical diagram.
Now you'll notice here we've got a dotted box, which means there's more to this system than we have right here. But you see down here the AC compressor clutch relay is a solid box. So the entire relay is illustrated in this diagram. If we go down here, we've got another solid box. That means the AC compressor and the clutch. The clutch is a solid box inside the other solid box. So it's telling you that the AC compressor clutch is an internal part of the AC compressor. This right down here is the ground signal. So that means when the compressor is bolted up to the block, that's where the compressor and the compressor clutch get the ground. The power is going to come from a fuse. Fuse 59 is going to go to the relay. When the relay is commanded on, this is the command side. When that electromagnet energizes, it pulls this switch closed and it then sends power. It already has ground because the ground should be there by being bolted up to the block.
Always review the diagram before you start testing. It is not wasting time. It is giving you a direction so that you won't waste time. Now we can start testing. Remember the critical thinking? Well, it's time to use it again.
Now another common problem and an easy one to find and fix is the AC clutch relay. Now the easy way to fix that is just honk the horn. Now the horn doesn't fix it, but that tells me that the horn relay is good. Now I can come over here in my fuse box, and when I look at my panel, my horn relay is right there, and my AC clutch is right there, so I'm just going to switch the two. Now I know my horn relay was working because I heard the horn honk. So with putting it in here, I go inside and turn the air conditioning on. If everything works then, I know as my AC clutch relay was the problem. I did that, the clutch still did not engage, so I know my relay is not the issue. So I'm going to put them back. Now the next thing I wanted to do was command that clutch on myself. So I'm going to use my scanner. Now I'm going to toggle this on. Now if you watch the status, you should see it go off and on. And you should be able to hear that clutch engage. On, off, on, off. Every time I engage that, what I'm also testing is the entire electric system, wiring, controls, and everything, all the way to the AC clutch. Now when I was commanding that compressor clutch on, you could see the screen changing from off to on, off to on. That's the command. So that tells me that the command from my intent to ask for air conditioning was going all the way to the clutch, but the clutch was not responding.
Now remember, our diagram told us that the AC clutch was an internal part of the compressor itself. So for the purposes of this video and as a teaching tool, I'm going to take it out so that you can see how we test it.